Members of the committee, Corey McCray, 45th Legislative District. Out of respect for my colleagues and also out of respect for my women colleagues that have somewhere to go, I'm going to be very quick. I come to you on behalf of Senate Bill 3. What Senate Bill 3 does is it raises the excise tax on our tobacco-related products. It does it in a way of parity. $2 is what that tax will be. It also invests $21 million into tobacco prevention. We have a lot of different subject matter experts, and I know that we've been here for a significant amount of time, so I'm going to let the subject matter experts talk about it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator.
My name is Jocelyn Collins. I am here on behalf of the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. I represent Maryland and D.C. as a Government Relations Director. I'm here today to say thank you to Senator McCray for his leadership on this issue. We know that regular and significant tobacco tax increases, along with fully funding evidence-based tobacco prevention cessation programs and comprehensive smoke-free laws, can reduce tobacco use. We call it the three-legged stool in a public health community because each component works in conjunction with each other, and all three are necessary to combat the state's tobacco epidemic. Here in Maryland, 18.2% of adults use tobacco products, including 12.5% who use cigarettes. Tobacco products used among youth is much too high. 5% of Maryland high school students use smoke cigarettes, 6% smoke cigars, 4.6% use smokeless tobacco, and 23% use electronic smoking devices. These numbers are clear that we are in the midst of a public health epidemic, particularly because of e-cigarettes, but also too the use of other tobacco products is at an all-time high. The last significant increase that we did on tobacco tax was in 2008. We know this is a proven mechanism to work. We have noticed that when we do this, we see a raise in revenue for the state, but a decrease in smoking. Also, too, we need to make sure that we fund the tobacco prevention cessation program at $21 million. We cut this back during the recession when we saw, of course, decrease in smoking and a decrease, of course, in smoking and in the rates going down. And we shouldn't have done this because we did not anticipate, of course, all was going to happen and new products that were going to be on the market. And the health department seriously need this money to combat this epidemic. So we're here today to say please vote yes for Senate Bill 3. And also, too, the U.S. Surgeon General released a report last Thursday in support of this legislation, particularly noting that comprehensive bills such as this that will, of course, include a increase in tobacco prevention cessation funding and also raising and doing increase in regular taxes, increases on tobacco products are the way to go to combat this epidemic. So we are here to say thank you and please support this legislation.
Wonderful. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Laura Hale. I am the Director of Government Relations for the American Heart Association. We urge your strong support of this legislation. These type of taxes work in order to combat what we're seeing as an epidemic. We also see the need in Maryland for a variety of funding sources. We've looked specifically to $21 million for tobacco control and cessation, so that's just a 10.6 increase for the locals here. But then the rest is open for your wisdom to be able to use for things that are sorely needed, like Kerwin, and wherever else you need to do that. We know that these are proven evidence-based mechanisms. We look at all products because all products are addictive. They contain nicotine. They do harm to your health. And so we can't look at one, we need to look at all when we're talking about how do we create more never smokers and how do we stop our young people from ever starting this addiction as well. Just to say, Maryland stands on the cusp of being a leader around the country on tobacco control programs, and we ask for your support in creating a healthier Maryland. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair Guzzoni, Vice Chair Rosapep, President Emeritus Miller, distinguished members of the committee. My name is Hannibal Kemmer, and I'm Chief Counsel for the Office of Attorney General's Legislative Affairs function. My colleague, John Leovi, is our Chief Counsel for the Tobacco Enforcement Unit, has submitted written testimony. In the interest of time, I'm not going to read from his testimony, and I'm just subbing for him here. But Mr. Leovi did want me to say that his unit is responsible for maximizing recovery under the master settlement agreement with the tobacco companies, and they bring into this state, Maryland, about $100 million per year. That's less than 1/6 of what the state pays to deal with smoking-related illnesses. And so we strongly support this bill. It will reduce smoking amongst young people and other adapters, and it will also raise revenue for the state. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the committee. Thank you for having us here this evening to testify. My name is Rami Eck. I'm the immediate past president, the advocacy chair of the Maryland Public Health Association. This is something that's been very important to us. Other tobacco-related issues we've seen in Maryland be very successful, and been extremely pleased in how we're doing in our state compared to a lot of other states that I do work with. I won't repeat any of the wonderful statistics and figures that my colleagues have pointed out, because this really sets the tone. I would just say that for adult smoking use, we're doing better in Maryland than a lot of other states, but for youth, we're really not. A lot of those numbers that she mentioned are actually higher percentages than they are in other states, and so this is really where we're missing the ball. In public health, our actions are multi-level, they're multi-pronged. We don't take one action and say that's a cure-all for everything. So with this is part of that multi-level addressing of youth tobacco use across the board. So we're basically here to testify in favor of increasing these taxes for two reasons. One, it's one of the most effective and cost-effective ways of reducing rates of tobacco use, and therefore leading to lower costs for health care and lower social costs. But also capturing this funding to go towards prevention, because the whole continuum is prevention, it's treatment, and then it's maintenance of cessation. It's not just one focus that we're looking at. And tobacco taxes are a way that can work across that entire continuum. So we're very much in favor of that, capturing some of those funds back in order to work on prevention. For every dollar we spend on prevention, the industry is spending about $12 on marketing. So we're always playing catch up to some point, and it's really time to stop subsidizing this product that's causing so much harm to our young people. Thank you.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Eric Galley, John O'Hara, Emily Scarr, Lawrence Polsky, Leslie Fry, and Sean Johnson. Yes, there are.
Good evening. I'm Eric Galley here today on behalf of the American Cancer Society, the American Heart Association, and the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. As the President Emeritus can tell you, I've been here for quite a while, and for all of the tax increases that we were able to get in future years, which we thank you for helping with. And on all of those cases, when we've done the tobacco tax increase, we've had all the good things happen. Consumption goes down, revenue goes up, and, you know, it's a win-win situation. And really quick, I would like to commend the ABLE report that is in your folders, or however it's done now. This talks about those last 3 cigarette excise taxes and all the good things that happened, and will probably answer a lot of the questions that may or may come up from the folks in front of us. I would urge you to get some rest tonight, but when you get a chance, please read this report. It's very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Larry Polsky. I'm here on behalf of the Maryland Association of County Health Officers in strong support of SB3. The budget win for SB3 will not be raising new revenue. The budget win for the state is decreasing both the $2.7 billion in annual tobacco-related health care costs and the $2.2 billion in lost productivity suffered by Maryland businesses. For every dollar of tax revenue collected, it costs the state treasury, business owners, and individual residents 14 times as much to cover tobacco-related health care costs and lost business productivity. Medicaid tobacco costs alone drill a $600 million hole in your annual budget. Over the past 4 decades, the most reliable means of decreasing nicotine use has been to increase product cost. As the current teen vaping rate has reached 1970s cigarette levels, the most important impact of SB3 will be to lower vaping use by teens. High school students are 4 times more likely to stop nicotine use as a result of price increases than adults. Currently, the cost for a teen to vape is 50% less than the cost to smoke. A strong vape tax of 86% will have a dramatic impact on decreasing youth nicotine addiction. Most health attention is placed on long-term effects of tobacco use, including cancer, emphysema, and stroke. As a practicing obstetrician for 2 decades, I also worry about the tens of thousands of babies who have been and will continue to be marinated in nicotine in utero as a result of more and more teens and young adults vaping. 50% of women who are nicotine addicted are unable to quit smoking during pregnancy, and that percentage is higher in low-income women and minorities. This is a result of greater social stressors in those groups. These factors further increase Medicaid neonatal costs and worsen health disparities. Nicotine harms the developing fetal brain. It harms impulse control, attention regulation, mood stability, and general learning ability. There's also substantial evidence that early nicotine exposure lowers the future thresholds for addiction to alcohol, cocaine, opioids, and other substances of abuse. I just want to take a moment to mention that some of the opponents may mention that vaping is 95% safer than smoking. That statistic is based on one study, one report that came out that is completely unsubstantiated by scientific studies. It came out of England in 2015. There is not a single healthcare organization in the United States, Canada, or anywhere else in the world that has upheld that 95% figure. The reality is we don't know how severe the effects of vaping will be for kids who start now and have this stuff rolling through their lungs and their systems for 30, 40 years to come. I'll conclude by saying that raising the tax on tobacco products, including the institution of an 86% tax on e-cigarettes, will lead to a healthier and more fiscally sound Maryland for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Leslie Fry. I'm here on behalf of Montgomery County Department of Health and Human Services, and also expressing support on behalf of Baltimore County Health Department and the Maryland Association of Counties. I associate myself with Larry's remarks, and I just want to add one point from the perspective of counties. There's a provision in the bill that would allow counties to impose a local tax on cigarettes in addition to other tobacco products, including vaping products, and we encourage you to keep that provision in the bill. You'll see in the fiscal note that that could have a local revenue impact of $21 million in FY21. That is an important piece of revenue source that we could use to encourage tobacco cessation, along with all of the other budgetary demands that are being placed on counties. So we ask that you keep that provision in the bill. Currently in Montgomery County, we tax cigars, other tobacco products, and electronic smoking devices, but because of express preemption, we cannot tax cigarettes locally. So in the interest of uniformity and good policy, we would like to be able to tax cigarettes as well at the local level. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Sean Johnson representing the Maryland State Education Association. We support Senate Bill 3 as a matter of public health, but also student health, and as a matter of revenue raising measure. We would have been in on this bill without the revenue component, just for the very health benefits of this. We were part of the Tobacco 21 Coalition last year and understand some of the statistics that were mentioned earlier about the increase in usage in high school students, but frankly, middle school students as well. So this is important from a public health standpoint. But the revenue piece is also significant, and I want to echo Ms. Fry's remarks, because this is one of the revenue measures before you today that can generate state revenues and local revenues and really help address some of the issues that you are facing and hearing from local governments as it relates to funding the blueprint proposals from the Kirwan Commission. We started today with President Miller referencing the efforts from 2002 with the Bridge to Excellence Act, and that really the only revenue measure done then of new dollars was tobacco tax related. It's fitting that you will end a hearing with another piece that can be part of the puzzle for us meeting the needs associated with the blueprint. For all of those reasons, we urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions for the panel? Okay, I have a couple more favorable, then a group of favorable with amendments. The last three I have been listed as favorable are Camilla Green, John Leoy, and John Wells. I think it's
So
you.
it's all mine.
It's all yours.
Hi, good evening, members of the committee, as well as the vice chairman. My name is Kamala Green. I am the Director of Health Promotion and Disease Prevention at the Baltimore City Health Department. And so all of my colleagues have gone before me, have expressed all of the great stats and use as it refers to tobacco increase of revenue for the state of Maryland. So let me give you the picture of Baltimore City. It is the city in which we know that we have been targeted by tobacco manufacturers that disproportionately affects marginalized populations, including people in low-income communities. It is also a place where we see that research has been shown that in those particular areas, there is lots of strategic marketing. However, in the city of Chicago in 2016, when they increased their tobacco tax, they also created a plan that also targeted a specific group of people around smoking cessation. We ask that those particular dollars be used not just to increase tax, but to also strategically align with smoking cessation and control efforts, not just around quitting smoking, but also tobacco enforcement. We also ask that we look at policies that would help us to target black market sales, where we will offer rewards to people who will turn in those who do not comply with those tax laws. As we take this step forward to a smoke-free generation in Baltimore's residents, we would like those allocations of tax revenues because it is critical for tobacco control. It means that we begin to build Baltimore to expand its tobacco efforts of tobacco laws, and it limits access, which decreases smoking. We ask that we expand the educational and prevention and enforcement services to our city, that we increase the funding to decrease disparities and reduce expenditures related to premature smoking. For this reason, we respectfully request a favorable report on SB3. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you very much. I have a panel of favorable with amendments. Isaac Meyer, Matt Milby, Candace Gott, Rob Garciola, and Jenna Anthony.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, Isaac Meyer, Compass Government Affairs, here on behalf of the Maryland Vapor Alliance, favorable with an amendment to this legislation. First off, Senator McCray, thank you for taking on this legislation. It is a very important public health issue. We hope that our amendment is something you're willing to work with us on. First, we represent the vapor lines. They are the brick and mortar vapor shops. They're small businesses. They sell products that are classified as open systems. They're considered vape shop vendors. By law, 70% of their retail sales come from the sale of vapor products and accessories. They sell open systems. This is an open system. This is the juice that goes into an open system. The user is able to pour this juice in. This is a closed system. This is Juul. This is what the kids are using in schools. In your packet, there is a list of the 148 violations for sales to minors in the state of Maryland. If you look at the brands that are on there listed for sales to minors, they're all products owned by Big Tobacco. This is not a Big Tobacco product. This is not a Big Tobacco product. And in case you guys are wondering, there's 20 times the amount of nicotine per milliliter in this closed system right here compared to this. This is what the kids are using. This is what responsible adults are using to help wean off their use of combustible cigarettes. You're going to hear from a number of panelists. These are all vape shop owners. They're here to share their story and what an 86% wholesale tax will do to them. The short answer is it will put them out of business. It will put them out of business. And what will happen is The one product that we want to address, this right here, is the only one that will survive, because vape shops only sell one product. You'll see in the violations, convenience stores, drugstores, other places sell these products. They can spread an 86% wholesale tax across many products and still stay in business. We can't. So what we're proposing is a point of sale tax from 6% to 12%. By no means are we married to that number. We are willing to work with the committee if that's the will of the committee, but we believe that a point of sale tax will still allow adults to responsibly use these products to wean off of tobacco safely. Thank you.
Hello. I just wanted to thank the chair and committee members for allowing us to share our concerns over this legislation. My name is Jenna Anthony. I'm the owner of a small vape shop in Pasadena, Maryland. And if passed in its current form, this bill will cause serious damage to our industry. The industry is comprised of mom and pop shops like mine. We simply won't be able to survive with this excessive wholesale tax. If this legislation passes in its current form, most of the shops in Maryland will close their doors for good. When I started my business 6 years ago, I opened it because I knew it would help adults quit traditional tobacco products for a healthier alternative. I knew it because it helped me. And I'm also proud to say that after 5 years of vaping and slowly lowering my nicotine level, I was able to completely quit using the vape altogether. So I've been tobacco-free for 6 years, nicotine-free for almost a year. So it does help people quit altogether. By passing this bill, you will take away the best option for combating the tobacco epidemic. Not only will it remove vaping as an option for adults, it will also fall short of keeping vapes and tobacco out of the hands of children. This may seem counterintuitive, but it's important to note that over 2 years, the state of Maryland, in conjunction with the FDA, performed a sting operation to catch and document underage sale of tobacco and vapor products. During that 2-year period, not one single vape shop was in violation, not a single one. However, hundreds of underage sales took place in stores like CVS, Walgreens, or Exxon. This legislation will likely shut the doors of the only stores consistently upholding the state age laws. Furthermore, the only companies that could possibly withstand an onerous wholesale tax or flavor ban are ones with massive funding like Juul, Views, and Blue. And as Isaac mentioned, we are not those companies. History has taught us that banning things in lieu of sensible regulation only serves to create a black market that puts the banned products in the hands of individuals who have no regard for keeping these products out of the hands of kids. In closing, Juul and their ilk are not representative of our industry. We who stand before you today are mothers, fathers, coaches, and community members who share your concerns regarding keeping vapes out of the hands of children. Please rethink your approach. Let's work on a sensible point of sales tax that won't push small businesses out and open the door for Juul to take over. Rethink banning the sale of flavored products and instead keep the sales limited within licensed vape shops. Together, we can keep kids safe while not denying adults the best shot at quitting tobacco for good. Thank you again for your time.
Hi, my name is Candace Scott, and I'm a small business owner and a member of the Maryland Vapor Alliance. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I want you to know that I'm not Big Tobacco and I'm not Juul. Per the National Youth Tobacco Survey that was released in December, the products teens are using the most is Juul. My vape shop, as well as other vape shops in Maryland, do not sell Juul or other big tobacco products. In fact, no Maryland vape shop has had a failed compliance check in the last 2 years. I smoked cigarettes for 15 years and I tried everything to quit smoking. I tried patches, gums, pills. I even went as far as being hypnotized. Nothing worked. That is until I went into a vape shop and I started with a menthol tobacco flavor, which helped me sustain from cigarettes for a few days, but I quickly relapsed and was smoking cigarettes again. I went back to that vape shop and got a green apple e-liquid, and I have not touched a cigarette since that day. My husband had a similar experience, and out of this we pulled every dime we had and we formed our business. We have been in business almost 6 years, and while I don't have an exact number, I know I've helped thousands of adults quit smoking. We are a total vape shop, and what I mean by the words total is the majority of our sales come from vape products. A wholesale tax of this measure would bankrupt me and put me out of business. It would also leave my 13 employees without a means to provide for their families. A vape shop vendor by law means 70% of our inventory is vape products or accessories. Unlike a gas station that can spread this out amongst thousands of products, my shop only sells one type of product. The price of my inventory would almost double, and this is a cost I would have to float until a product is sold to a customer. This is not simply something my business could sustain over time or survive. In fact, a 40% wholesale tax was in place by our neighboring state of Pennsylvania, and this put many shops out of business. Many of the shops that remain open in Pennsylvania are struggling to survive. If a 40% wholesale tax could do that to Pennsylvania, imagine what an 86% wholesale tax will do to shops in Maryland. It would be devastating, and it would only leave the big players left. Juul and big tobacco products would then be able to corner the market. I am not opposed to a tax such as the sales tax that the Maryland Vapor Alliance has proposed. I think it should be done in a way that does not put me out of business. Putting small business vape shops out of business has consequences that include my customers finding products on the black market. Items obtained on the black market do not have quality control, nor will they be taxed. The fact remains that cigarettes kill 480,000 people each year, and flavored nicotine vaping is a harm reduction tool that has helped people like me get away from combustible tobacco. Why would we tax vaping in a way that gives customers no incentive to switch to a much less harmful product? I urge you to please impose a fair tax that will keep me in business, keep my employees with a job, and give customers a reason to switch to an alternative that is 95% safer than smoking combustible cigarettes. Thank you.
Good afternoon, committee members, and I appreciate you having me here today so I can talk about this. Other than echoing the details that my colleagues have already stated, I want to tell you that I quit smoking over 6 years ago thanks to flavored vapor. And it's very important to me because it wasn't until I found a certain flavor that I was able to get off cigarettes. And after burying my grandfather last year, and seeing the health effects of our customers, and customers have brought me in x-rays of their lungs. And some may say, yeah, there's no evidence they're 95% safer. If you want that study, I'll be glad to bring it in and show you, because there is evidence. And there's evidence in our customers who have brought in their lung x-rays, and they'd be happy to show you those as well. This tax will put hundreds of small businesses, Marin, out of business. I've talked to many business owners, and they talked about how they invested their life savings and opened up into these small businesses. And many of these small businesses are owned by women and minorities. And that's really doing a disservice to the people of Maryland. If someone, they spent, over the 6 years, I've accumulated, maybe close to $100,000 in inventory. 86% with the floor tax, I'd owe $86,000 to Maryland. I can't afford that. We're not big tobacco. We don't have billions of dollars. We don't have millions of dollars. We don't even have hundreds of thousands of dollars. We are small businesses. This would, and plus we still owe money on our leases. Some people just signed brand new leases. They're going to owe 12 months worth of leases. So it will bankrupt small businesses. And it's unfortunate that we can't, hopefully we can come to some form of point of sale tax in the amendment that we're proposing, so that we can still stay in business and we can pay our fair share of taxes. And so we are not opposed to taxation at all. We just want something that's common sense and fair to the people of Maryland. So, and we already know cigarettes kill 480,000 Americans a year. Every day that goes by, 1,300 Americans die. 7,000 Americans die, or 7,000 Marylanders die a year from smoking. We're getting people to make that switch to get off onto a much less harmful product. Vaping is not 100% safe, but it's about harm reduction. But thank you for your time, and hopefully we can work together here in the near future.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President Emeritus, members of the committee. Rob Gargiel with Compass Government Relations on behalf of the Vapor Technology Alliance. I want to focus on 3 points. We do support this legislation with an amendment. The 3 points I want to focus on, number one, we do not support the tax at the wholesale level. We support it at the point of sale. In other words, much like we did the alcohol tax several years ago, where it's when you go to a restaurant, it's 9% versus food at 6%. We're saying double it, make it 12% at the point of sale. Why is that important? That is important for these businesses because to be a vape shop in Maryland, to be licensed as a vape shop, more than 70% of your revenues, this is in law right now, have to be from vapor products. So the way this bill is drafted, everything in their inventory, they would have to pay a tax on when this bill becomes effect, and then every product, if it's wholesale, they would have to pay the tax in advance. You're talking tens of thousands of dollars that they would have to pay these businesses immediately and on any product they purchase just to stay in business before they can make the sale to their customer. This is very different than a convenience store or a gas station where there are other products that kind of socialize the cost of this. For them, if it's at wholesale, they're out of business. And so we would urge that a tax on e-cigarettes be done at the final point of sale. The second point I want to make is that there's not an equivalency. There is zero tobacco in vapor products, e-cigarettes, no tobacco. There's nicotine at various levels. You know, Isaac showed one product that has essentially the amount of nicotine that a pack of cigarettes has. That's not what these folks are selling. What they're selling is something that you can ratchet down the nicotine level, and many of these products, in fact, don't have nicotine in them at all. And so what we're saying is, you know, if you do a point of sale tax, which we would support, it's not the same as taxing cigarettes. It is a much safer product. And if you don't believe me, the American Cancer Society, which you have in your materials, said, so far research has found that using e-cigarette products is likely to be significantly less harmful than smoking regular cigarettes. We also provided on the second page of a summary of information, New England Journal of Medicine just last year said that e-cigarettes are twice as effective as other smoking cessation products to move people off of more harmful products. And the third point is, which I reiterated earlier, final point of sale, not equivalent, 12% tax at retail. And if I may, Mr. Chair, there are a number of folks that are here, and I'm not sure the folks on this panel said where their business is. If they can at least just state where their business is, and then there's others in the audience that we did not bring up, if they could just stand up and just say their name and where their business is located, if you could indulge that. Thank you.
Jenna Anthony, Pasadena, Maryland.
Candace Scott, I have a store in Prince Frederick, at Lexington Park, and Waldorf.
Matthew Milby, I have a store in Eldersburg, Maryland, and Randallstown, Maryland.
Just speak up.
Pat Carpenter, I'm in Southern Maryland, here in Anne Arundel County. William Jameson, St. Mary's County.
Elmer Bailey, Newmarket, Frederick County.
Jack Wynn, Rockville, Montgomery County, College Park, Prince George's County.
Melissa Hendricks, Edgewater, Maryland.
Charles Gott, Charles County, Calvert County, and St. Mary's County.
Kyle Vega, 2 in Baltimore County, 1 in Carroll County.
Trenton Davis, Main Street Vapor, Glen Burnie, Columbia.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I have a couple of panels now on who are unfavorable. Bruce Periano, Debbie Robbins.
Can the other members of
We could bring up some more. Fred Parsons, Brian Hahn, and Barry Margulies.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and of course, President Emeritus Miller. Bruce Periano, I'm here on behalf of the Maryland Association of Candy and Tobacco Wholesalers. We have major problems with this bill, and we ask that a couple of things. First of all, this bill should not be just looked at solely and separately. There is also pending before the Senate and in the House a very serious bill, which I'm not going to get into, concerning banning various cigarettes that are sold, and there's going to be enormous impact relative to that. You all passed last year a bill increasing to age 21, who is considered an adult, to consume cigarettes, tobacco, or tobacco products. So a lot of the proponent testimony was about the youth and teens and what have you. You took care of that last year when you upped it to 21. And hopefully if everyone's doing their job and they're enforcing that, we're talking about adults. This is going to be a tax on adults. Now, my clients, the tobacco wholesalers, are distributors under the law of all of these products. They are the only ones under the law. They are licensed by the state of Maryland. And on behalf of the state of Maryland, through the comptroller's office, they stamp all the tobacco, cigarettes, and other tobacco products. And that's a very important function that they're doing. If they didn't do it, the state would have to do that in order to collect the tax on this product before the sales tax is collected. As you'll hear from them, the impact of this legislation is going to be very devastating on them. And it's real. I know you hear it a lot of times on a lot of bills, but it's very real. People are going to lose their jobs because of the passage of this legislation. And respectfully, you need to understand that. There are consequences. I think the notion of, on page 8, of taking out the prohibition of any county, special taxing district, or municipality to not be able to tax tobacco or tobacco products is absolutely Michigan. It's going to hurt the state of Maryland very, very badly. You are taking your authority away and you're giving it to localities. You still will have that authority, but your localities will, in effect, be given the authority to raise the tax to whatever amount or level they want, and in effect ban the sale of those products in those jurisdictions. The state of Maryland relies on...
So this would give Baltimore City the authority to impose a tax? Is that what this does?
Yes, if you look, Mr. President Emeritus, if you look on page 8 of the bill,
Right.
it takes away, on page 8 of the bill, lines 10 and 11, and I'll be glad to show this to you afterwards.
Right.
It takes that away, and whatever the subject matter is, the legislature should not give up its prerogatives. You're trying to fund Kerwin, you're trying to fund other things. I'm not supporting this stuff, but you're giving away something which is very important for the state of Maryland. And so some counties are going to have, and I'll be quick, I know my time's running out. Some counties are going to up it so high because they're going to want to ban it. It'll be probably, you know what's going to happen in Montgomery County. I know it. You all know it. How are they going to be able to do all 24 different kind of stamps? They're doing one stamp on the tax, which they pay in advance when they buy the stamps. They're not going to be able to function. I urge you not to do it. It's not smart legislative policy at all. You have the authority to do what you want at the state level. It needs to be uniform. It's going to be a double catastrophe on these businesses. Thank you very much. Debbie.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Robbins. Today I'm here to tell you about a family business in Montgomery County that I am president of, Century Distributors. What makes us unique is that we are the only wholesaler of our kind in Montgomery County, with the 3 owners living and educated in the county. Currently, we have 200 employees, a fleet of 45 vehicles, and we work out of 100,000 square feet of warehouse space. Most of our employees reside in Montgomery and Frederick counties. Those are our actual workers that are inside the building. Century's product mix is 82% tobacco and 18% of all other consumer goods to retail. Our revenue is dependent on tobacco, and now included in that category is e-cigarettes and vapor. Without the tobacco revenue, I am certain Century will struggle to maintain our current level of viability as a business in Montgomery County and the state of Maryland. Today, I would like to express my opposition to repealing the prohibition on the county, municipal corporation, a special taxing district, or any other political subdivision for imposing a tax on cigarettes or tobacco products. By having the state of Maryland be in control of the OTP tax has allowed for an even playing field for all retailers in the state of Maryland. It's one reporting document with one payment from the wholesaler. By repealing this tax, it will create a disadvantage and confusion, as any jurisdiction can impose a tax. In Montgomery County, with the vape tax, we found that retailers are buying from wholesalers and manufacturers outside of the state and do not invoice the tax. The shipping agent is suggesting for the retailer to pay the tax, as we know they are not. We are in favor of a reasonable uniform vape tax, but not 86%, as suggested in Senate Bill 3, and asking you all to repeal the Montgomery County tax and have the state be in control of all future taxes. Keeping the state in charge of collecting one uniform tax for all jurisdictions has been a positive process for both wholesalers and retailers. We are hoping the new revenue will be slated for educating our youth in Maryland not to start vaping and smoking and to help them to quit through cessation education workshops. We also need to educate our retailer community the importance of carding anyone who purchases tobacco or nicotine products, and encouraging the retail community to require ID scanning technology and limit the quantities of any type of tobacco products that anyone can purchase during a single transaction. Century has already seen a drop in sales as each of the states and neighboring states have chosen to raise the age of smoking to 21. Flavor e-cigarettes and pod systems will be off retailer shelves beginning February 5th at 11:59 p.m. Just with the impending cutoff date, we at wholesale have already seen a decline in the sale of flavor pods. My last point of opposition is that Maryland raised the cigarette tax from $2 to $4. This will only encourage more illegal trafficking of cigarettes from our bordering states. D.C. has experienced an enormous decline in tobacco sales, while the bordering areas such as Loudoun, Fairfax, Arlington, Montgomery, and Prince George's counties have experienced an increase in sales. The volume has just shifted into neighboring jurisdictions. A moderate increase is expected.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Whoever's next?
Go ahead. Fred?
Senate President, Chairman, I'm Fred Parsons. I represent the George J. Falter Company. I'm also a member of the MATCD. I've been in front of the panel many times. I've experienced the cigarette tax increase in 2002, cigarette tax increase in 2008. What I want to remind you all about is the jobs that's going to cost. We have 149 employees, not all of whom are in Maryland now. Since the tobacco tax increase in 2008, we've had to hire some people in Virginia and Delaware and Pennsylvania to chase down the business that was scooted out of Maryland. We currently sell approximately the same amount of cartons of cigarettes that we did back in 2002 because we have had to go to other jurisdictions to sell the product. We sell to about 2,400 stores, not all tobacco products. Tobacco stores are about 1,800 stores. The effect of the tax increase, as explained to you by the vape group, that they will lose employees or they may have to shut down, this will affect those approximately 1,800 stores. If they lose one or two employees because of reduced business, that's that many stores times the one or two employees. We're talking about income tax. We're talking about people's livelihoods and their jobs. We are not in favor of this bill at all. And Debbie spoke very well about the problem that multi-jurisdictional taxes are going to be as far as the auditors are concerned is in going into these businesses trying to decide what's the right price for this county, what's the right price for that county. They're already chasing their tails trying to stop the zero OTP tax cigars from coming out of Pennsylvania and coming into Maryland in the black market. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and committee. My name is Brian Hahn, the sales manager from Triple C Wholesaler. As the committee is considering to increase the cigarette and OTP tax, please consider this. If this bill passes, we would have to let some of my employees go. We have 2 locations, about 100 employees. This bill will, excuse me, the current pack of cigarettes is around $8 per pack at this time. If this proposal is approved, it will go up to about $10 per pack. If this bill is approved, this will hurt the local wholesalers and local small businesses, and it will decrease Maryland tax revenue. The local business will be purchasing their OTP products from out of the states like Pennsylvania and Delaware with lower or no OTP tax. As a sales manager, I've seen this when I visit stores with my sales guys. Excuse me. Lastly, if this proposal goes through, this will have a tremendous domino effect all the way from manufacturers, wholesalers, to local businesses. Like I said it earlier, we have 2 locations with about 100 employees. Their jobs will be in jeopardy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions for the panel?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
we have
sorry.
one.
I
Thank
forgot.
you, Mr.
Yep.
Chairman. Good evening. My name is Barry Margolis. I'm the president and owner of Cooper Booth Wholesale Company. I would like to thank you for allowing me to address you regarding Senate Bill number 3. Cooper Booth Wholesale Company is a distributor serving convenience store retailers in 6 mid-Atlantic states, one of which is Maryland. We supply a variety of product categories to retailers, the largest being tobacco items such as cigarettes, cigars, pipe tobacco, snuff, and electronic cigarettes. I'm the 3rd generation to operate our family business, which employs approximately 284 people. We oppose Senate Bill number 3 for a number of reasons. Repealing the prohibition on county, municipal, special taxing districts, or other political subdivisions will create a reporting and tracking nightmare for wholesalers and retailers. Having a uniform tax approach across the state makes sense for the state and the business community by creating a level playing field for all businesses. Having some municipalities with higher or lower taxes will cause the consumer to shift their buying behavior to minimize costs. Tax inequalities between municipalities will likely increase criminal conduct, as an opportunity will be created to acquire product from low tax areas and ship it to high tax areas for resale. We oppose the dramatic increases on the taxes listed in SB3 for cigarettes, OTP, and electronic cigarettes for several reasons. Increasing the tax rate on cigarettes from $2 per pack to $4 per pack will make Maryland more expensive than neighboring states of Pennsylvania, which is at $2.60 a pack, Delaware, which is at $2.10, Virginia, which is at 30 cents, and West Virginia, which is at $1.20. Consumers are smart and will purchase cigarettes and other tobacco products where they are the least expensive, which will be outside of Maryland. They will also purchase gas and other items on their trips, hurting the sales of Maryland stores. Reduce sales, reduce corresponding sales and income taxes. If there is less business, the stores will need less labor hours, which will mean job cuts. Our company will be hurt by the sales reduction in Maryland. Some stores close to the border may have to shut down if the losses are too severe. We have seen this scenario play out in other markets. Increased tobacco taxes can result in less tax revenue for the state. As the taxes increase, the volume decreases as consumers find less expensive alternatives. Some states, such as New Jersey, were surprised when the last tobacco tax increase did not come close to the projected revenue and resulted in decreased collections. The same scenario will likely play out here in Maryland. Increased tax rates on tobacco products is associated with increases in various crimes. It encourages cross-border and black markets for lower-cost contraband product. In many markets, our salespeople report seeing product being delivered out of cars or white vans. These shadow distributors attempt to operate below the radar of authorities. Some are not properly licensed or registered to do business. They don't report their sales and remit the required taxes. They don't even have computers. The stores buy a few items from the legitimate wholesaler, but the bulk is purchased from these undocumented shadow wholesalers that have lower prices on the untaxed products. Okay. Cigarettes are one of the most stolen consumer products. Higher taxes on cigarettes and tobaccos makes theft more attractive. The safety of our delivery drivers and retail clerks is put at risk when one carton of cigarettes at the value of $95. We have had customer stores robbed where they took the cigarettes and vape product and left the cash register. Our cost of insurance against the crime will likely increase. In conclusion, we oppose Senate Bill number 3 since it will negatively impact our business and the business of our retail customers. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, so anyway, I've been lobbied on this bill. I'm going to vote for increase of taxation. but nobody mentioned to me the possibility that locals increase the tax as well. Where is that in this bill?
That's on page eight of the bill, Mr. President.
Yeah.
On page 8 of the bill, lines 10 and 11. The brackets take out the current prohibition in the law. The current prohibition in the law is a county, municipal corporation, special taxing district, or other political subdivision of the state may not impose a tax on cigarettes or other tobacco products. That language I just said is bracketed out of this bill, and as you so well know, that means the counties, municipalities, and subdivisions are free to tax.
So would that include vape, would that hookahs and all this?
The whole,
Yeah.
yes, because those 3 categories under the current law are considered other tobacco products.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
So not only can Montgomery County, but the city of Rockville could do it, the city of Gaithersburg could do it, based on this law.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Mr. Roddy, Ms. Helmuth, Mr. Castro, Mr. Gupta. Next panel.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President Emeritus, members of the committee, my name is Patrick Roddy, and I'm here today representing the premium cigar retailers of Maryland on the narrow ground of how this bill affects them in opposition to this bill. You've received testimony from me which includes an amendment which, if adopted by this committee, would remove this opposition. Premium cigars are defined in the Maryland Code very specifically and are different than cigarettes and machine-produced cigars. They are treated differently and they are taxed differently. Unfortunately, Senate Bill 3 removes these distinctions, and instead of having an individual wholesale tax rate, which is currently at 15%, this bill takes premium cigars up to the 86% level of the other products that you have heard about. Currently, other tobacco products are taxed at 70%, so they go from 70 to 86. Pipe tobacco is taxed at 30%, so that goes from 30 to 86. And premium cigars are currently taxed at 15%, so this bill represents one of a 5-fold increase in the tax rate for premium cigars. Currently, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, you collect about $365 million in taxes from all those categories. Of that, only $2.3 million come from premium cigars, and that is based on the FY19 numbers from the comptroller's report. So I submit to you that this bill, in its attempts to limit access for youth to tobacco and to raise revenue for other good purposes, is disproportionately impacting the 30 to 40 small premium cigar store businesses around the state in a way that does not really help meet those 2 public policy objectives. The average person who buys a cigar, buys a premium cigar, is 30 years of age. They buy approximately 1 product a month, and those are national statistics. I submit to you that this disproportionate tax on this narrow part of this market is really out of the scope of your 2 objectives and should be looked at. So we have submitted an amendment to maintain the tax rate at 15%. Unlike the other small businesses you've heard from, these businesses have been able to survive with a wholesale tax. They pay the comptroller quarterly before they make the sale. But please don't raise this 5-fold on them, or that it will also cripple their businesses. With that, I want you to hear from the local retailers who have been able to pay tax and stay in Maryland to date.
Good evening. My name's Feeney Helmuth. I've owned and operated the Humidor Cigar Shop for the last 23 years with my family. I've been in front of this committee many times, and I do thank you for staying this evening to listen to us. So in my store, I sell premium cigars, pipe tobacco, and accessories. That's all. 90% of my revenue comes from selling those products. My shop is located in Cockeysville. I'm about a 20-minute drive to Shrewsbury, Pennsylvania, where my closest competitor is. I pay the 15% on the premium cigars, while my competition in Pennsylvania pays nothing. Over the years, I've lost customers to that store in Pennsylvania. I won't even explain how much I've lost to the internet. So what will this bill do to my family's business? I know you hear it all the time, but my family will go out of business. On January 21st of this year, I made a payment to the comptroller's office for over $22,000. That's for 1/4 of tobacco tax on the premium cigars. This is product that is still sitting in my store that I've paid the tax on. I'm in my slowest month of the year in January. I don't have the working capital because I had to pay that $22,000. With this bill, that tax that goes from 15% to 86%, I'll have to send payment to the comptroller for over $127,000. What small business can survive that? To make matters worse, I invested in the property that my store is currently in, with dreams of growing my business in the state of Maryland. The bank required me to put a lien on my personal property. I'm sorry, I'm trying to not get emotional. But I will lose everything. My business, my building, my personal house, and I'm terrified. So I please ask you to amend premium cigars out of this bill, and I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Steve Castro. I'm a graduate of the United States Naval Academy, I'm a combat veteran, and I'm a co-owner in Davidoff Cigars. My brother and I started Davidoff Cigars in 1996, and have worked very hard to build our company. We started with 1 store and 1 employee, and have grown to 12 stores and over 65 employees throughout the state of Maryland, only in the state of Maryland. We have taken many risks to build our small business and continue to take risks. Our employees count on us for a paycheck every 2 weeks. We offer health insurance to our full-time employees at no cost, and we contribute to an employee retirement fund every year. We're a company that has a good and honest reputation. We pay our bills on time, we pay our taxes, we take care of our employees, and we provide the products our customers want at a fair price. If this tax increase is put into effect, it won't be a fair price. It'll force our customers to go to D.C., Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and take revenue away from the state. Last year, against my accountant's better wishes, we took out a $1 million loan to purchase a small warehouse to support our stores. We're investing in the state of Maryland. So I was shocked when I heard an 86% tax on premium cigars and pipe tobacco was being proposed. It will destroy my business and hurt a lot of people. I urge the committee to amend premium cigars and pipe tobacco out of Senate Bill 3. Thank you very much for your time.
Good evening, members of the committee. Thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity to speak here. My name is Rahul Gupta. I own and operate, along with my father, a family-owned business. We've been incorporated in the state since 1982. Recently, in hopes to increase our business, attract more customers, and employ more people, we invested essentially a lifetime savings into a property on Route 1, Mr. Gazzone's district, actually, Congressman Gazzone's district, or sorry, Senator Gazzone's district. Sorry about that. Anyways.
Congressman is an insult right now.
I apologize. So anyways, we took this diner on Route 1, we completely renovated it. We put in about $2.5 million into this location, and in efforts to kind of increase our business, hopefully. And I'm confident, essentially, that with this tax increase that's being proposed, that we'll be out of business. There's no way that we can compete with, online retailers, much less out-of-state retailers that a lot of our customers can drive to very easily. So I don't think that premium cigar retailers were really the anticipated audience for this proposed tax increase, and I urge you to please consider removing premium cigars and pipe tobacco from this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for this panel? Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have, let's see, Kirk McCauley, Scott Weber, and Guy Bentley.
Good evening, Chairman Moon, members of the committee. My name is Kirk McCauley. I work for WMDA Service Station Association, and we represent about 700 retail outlets in Maryland, service stations, convenience stores, and repair shops. The increase of $2 per pack, bringing it to $4, would severely hurt our retailers. People come in their locations for fair prices, good coffee, clean bathroom, and when they can't get all of them things, they don't come in. They go somewhere else to spend their money, not only on the cigarettes, but on other items that have state sale tax on it. We know that when this price went into effect to $2, that the black market picked up a lot. If it goes to $4, we'll have a black market explode. We'll have organized crime bringing in cigarettes, and why not? You can drive into Virginia and pick up 5 cartons legally and bring them back into Maryland. Then 5 cartons cost you $15 in tax. The same 5 cartons in Maryland will cost you $200 in tax. Pretty good money especially for a young man. And these people who sell this black market cigarettes, they don't have age verification. They could care less who they sold it to. As long as they get their money in their pocket, then they load 3 or 4 guys in a car and go back across the bridge and pick up another 15 or 20 cartons. So it's just on paper it looks like more people are quitting smoking. They're just going other places to buy it. Maryland's not an island. We're surrounded by states that have lower taxes, and this would be a big blow to it. And as far as giving individual counties the right to set their own tax, what a nightmare for small business. I got businesses that have 6 or 7 different locations in different counties. Just in a bookkeeping, it'd be a nightmare. And you see people now not only hopping over to Virginia or to Pennsylvania or Delaware to buy cigarettes, they'd be hopping from Montgomery over to Prince George's or Prince George's over to another county. I mean, it just really doesn't make any sense at all. No continuity at all, and it would surely hurt our businesses. Please give SB3 an unfavorable report. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you so much for holding this hearing, and thank you for your patience. My name is Guy Bentley. I'm Director of Consumer Freedom at the Reason Foundation. We're a non-profit public policy research think tank. We're a 501c3 that promotes a dynamic market economy as the foundation for human dignity and progress. I'm going to focus my remarks more to the e-cigarette side of SB3. Specifically, as some researchers mentioned from the UK and England, and as is probably painfully obvious, I am from the UK and England. So there might have been some confusion. The study that was referred to that gives the 95% relative risk figure in that saying 95, or more accurately, that the risks of e-cigarettes won't exceed that of combustible cigarettes is done every year, and it looks at a broad literature review of the scientific evidence, and they come to that conclusion every year. But it's not just the UK, it's also our own National Academies of Sciences, Engineering and Medicine who say that there is conclusive proof that e-cigarettes are safer than combustible cigarettes. Now, when it comes to the subject of e-cigarette taxation, we have to consider what is the tax for. Taxation is to raise revenue for government services, but sometimes we require special taxes if there are negative externalities. So we have to consider, do e-cigarettes present negative externalities? The answer is generally no, in that smokers who switch from cigarettes to e-cigarettes are in fact making a much healthier decision. So in fact, it would be an inversion of a sin tax. It would be a virtue tax. Just recently, it published in December, the National Bureau of Economic Research examined the effect of Minnesota's e-cigarette tax, which was 95%. The study's authors conclude, our results suggest in the sample period about 32,400 additional adult smokers would have quit in Minnesota in the absence of the tax. We also know that half to three-quarters of American smokers are from low-income communities, so any price increase in the availability of e-cigarettes necessarily presents a bigger barrier to a lower-income smoker than it does to a higher-income smoker. Now, of course, no one disagrees that youth vaping must be reduced so we can keep these options available for adult smokers hoping to quit. That is why the tobacco age of purchase has been raised to 21, but also all fruit and sweet flavored pod and cartridge-based devices, which have been referred to, have been banned by the Food and Drug Administration pending their application to go through scientific review. And so hopefully we will see a bearing down on the youth vaping rate while ensuring that Maryland's small vape shops can continue to sell their products to adult smokers looking to quit. As was also mentioned, Pennsylvania's e-cigarette tax of about 40% of the wholesale price within 1 year closed around 130 small vape shops. So I hope you'll take all of that into account and see that both policies on both Maryland's level and on the federal level have been taken to address youth vaping. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Chairman Guzon, members of the committee, and I do not actually know this gentleman, but we're now going to have a bit of parody in here. My name is Scott Weber. I'm a proud Maryland citizen since 1986. I currently live in Bethesda, and I'm the founder, along with my son, of the Vaping Awareness Public Education Society, and we are also a nonprofit research and political advocacy organization formed to address the scourge of smoking, but focused on the benefits and the risks of vaping. On the topic of vaping, I do consider myself an expert. I've been intensely researching the vaping universe since 2013. I have read hundreds of articles, reports, and studies on the topic, compiling multiple thousands of hours of combined time in this space. And I probably know as much about vaping as anybody in the entire state of Maryland. I tell you this not to brag, but rather to simply convey that I know what I'm talking about because I've done my homework, and I'm willing to go head-to-head on a research and fact basis to much of the misinformation you've received from, or you've heard from other panelists earlier this evening. Accordingly, I can comfortably say that SB3 is currently written, most notably its draconian 86% tax rate, even on all existing vaping products owned by consumers in their house at the time of enaction, will have very bad outcomes for the state and its citizens, both from a public health perspective and certainly from a fiscal policy perspective. It's based on extremely bad science, it's dishonest facially, and will likely result in the closing of many dozens of small businesses, actually reducing state revenues by the millions of dollars while simply removing vaping sales out of state to the internet or most likely to the black market. At the same time, current research shows that invoking tax parity among vaping and smoking products, as this bill proposes, actually leads to higher smoking rates as cigarettes become both easier to obtain and relatively less costly, and does nothing to curb youth's vaping. I've submitted in your packet over 100 pages of supporting documentation in my testimony, including those that highlight what happened in Minnesota after they imposed a similar 95% tax, and this was almost 10 years ago, and it decimated the vaping industry. But smoking, as you heard, smoking rates actually rose by 8.1%, and their youth vaping rate is 50% higher now than it is in Maryland as a result of that. SB3 will create a situation much like in Minnesota where you're intentionally destroying small business vape shops and forcing users to go either black market or to the internet. And as a result, the state will lose sales tax, employment tax, income tax, real estate revenues, and the ability to monitor. And this is very important, to monitor, regulate, and enforce the laws, because the comptroller cannot walk in on the internet and test compliance. There's nothing smart about this legislation, everything destructive and counterproductive to the intended outcome that you have. As is evidenced in the packet, vaping is indeed 95 to 99% less harmful than smoking, and to give the two parity and tax them equally is misguided legislative malpractice. I know that's strong, I do believe that. I'm not ignoring the risks, but their benefits are so outweigh the risks that no intelligent, compassionate, or reasonable person who has done their research can logically deny the overwhelming superiority of vaping over smoking. So Senator McCrae, I would like to help this committee write a better bill, but one that's based on honesty, facts, science, and one that could better be spent on things like Kerwin. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the panel? I think that concludes it, and thank goodness, I don't think we're ever eligible for legislative malpractice. I think that concludes our hearing. There's no one else to testify? Thank you all very much. Committee, it's about 6 hours. It was good work. We went through a lot of issues, a lot of big stuff, and I appreciate everybody's attention. We got a lot of work to do from these hearings, so thank you all very much.